the speakers. Ritika and Gita.
Thank you, sir, for inviting us. Good evening to one and all present here. Today, I, Ritika Agrawal,
I, Yatishan.
on behalf of IMT Nagpur, extend a warm welcome to you all for the panel discussion on the topic Integrating ESG into Business Strategies. We are happy to be associated with VIA Nagpur and NHRD Nagpur for this event. Today, we have gathered here for the panel discussion, which will be graced by esteemed guests from the industry. We have with us today Dr. Vigyan Verma, Dr. D.G. Garve, and Professor Amitabh Banerjee as panelists and CA Girish Deodhar as the moderator of the discussion.
Now, let me introduce the panel. Dr. Vigyan Verma, Director, IMT Nagpur, as President and President, NHRD Nagpur chapter. After a decade-long tenure as a finance faculty at Exeter Jamshedpur, transitioned to JP Morgan Stanley as an investment banker. He served as an adjunct professor at Carleton University, Canada, and a visiting faculty at IMT for 11 years, with a close involvement with SEBI and National Stock Exchange. Dr. Vigyan Verma holds a PhD in finance, an MBA specializing in strategy and finance, and a master's in business economics from Delhi University, where he was a gold medalist in Master of Commerce. He authored two books, one on international finance and another titled Managing Work in Digital Economy. Dr. Verma, along with being a president, NHRD Nagpur chapter, currently holds position as EC member of Bombay Management Association and Indo-American Society. I request Dr. Suhas Budhe, past Vice President, VIA, to offer a bouquet to Dr. Vigyan Verma as a token of appreciation.
Dr. D.G. Garve, founder and director of Anacon Laboratories Private Limited, is a PhD holder in chemistry. Anacon Labs, situated in Butibori, MIDC Food Park, is Central India's largest environmental and food testing lab with extensive accreditations. QCI NABET has accredited Anacon for consultancy across 21 sectors. Dr. Garve, formerly an R&D scientist with the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, serves as an environmental consultant to entities like MIDC, Solar Explosives, and several branches of Reserve Banks of India. With over 350 environmental clearances secured for large and medium industries, Dr. Garve aids strategic planning and CSR and ESG initiatives for various corporates. Ancon Labs Private Limited has received the prestigious MSME Award for outstanding performance in the service sector from Government of India as well. I request Mr. Girdhari Mantri, Chairman, CSR Forum, VIA, to offer a bouquet to Dr. D.G. Garve as a token of appreciation.
Professor Amitabh Banerjee, IICA MCA Asserted Independent Director, brings over 20 years of diverse experience with brands like ITC Limited, the Intercontinental Eros, Moserware India Limited, and Isolus Forsan. He held managing positions and served as Deputy Director of Corporate Governance at CIA. Additionally, he consulted with Vanish Associates and Advocates, Grant Thornton Advisory Private Limited, and National Foundation of Corporate Governance. He is a company secretary, law graduate, and holds a PhD in corporate governance. Mr. Banerjee is also a visiting faculty at IMT Nagpur. I request Mr. Subhas Budhe to offer a bouquet to Professor Amitabh Banerjee as a token of appreciation.
CA Girish Deodhar, currently a chairman of MSME and a seasoned practitioner since 1985, has international recognition as a qualified soft skills trainer accredited by JC's Chamber International, Coral Gavel, USA, since 1998. With the Rashtra Bhasha Ratna, he has served as past president of Orange City JCs and holds a position as an executive committee member of Vidarbha Industries Association for over 15 years. His contributions extend to his role as an ex-board member of Rotary Club of Nagpur as well. Now, I request Dr. Smita, to offer a bouquet to CA Girish Deodhar as a token of appreciation. Before moving on, I would request Dr. Vigyan Verma, Director, IMT Nagpur, to offer a bouquet to Dr. Suhas Guthe, past Vice President, BIA, as a token of appreciation.
Not required.
Now I request Professor Abhishek Narayan Singh from IMT to offer a bouquet to Mr. Girdhari Mantri, Chairman, CSR Forum BIA, as a token of appreciation. Now, I would like to request Mr. Deodhar to take over the discussion.
Thank you, Ritika and Yatish. I also recognize the presence of Vice President at NHRDN, Dr. Vijay Phati here, who is with us. I now request Dr. Suhas Budhe for welcome remarks on behalf of VI.
Guruji, all the dignitaries of the days. It's an interesting time to hold a discussion on a topic like ESG, because I think the world is also looking at industries to contribute and recognize their contribution inside. If I'm not wrong, I think the experts can correct me. This ESG is also, I think, mandatory for 1,000 companies right now, and I think they are trying to expand it to larger industrial community. But as an industrial association, we are almost industrial association of small MSME industries around this region. And when ESG is computed for the larger companies, we are in the pipeline of that company, the supply side. So a lot of data is required from us to share on this side. And I think they are also trying to change that BRSR also. But the CSR was little of a mandatory kind of a philanthropic kind of a thing. And now this data ESG ranking is very important if you want to really get capital from international markets also. And there are a lot of things. I also personally work on the natural capital accounting tool, which is one of the part of the environmental aspect of ESG. Because I personally feel that in ESG, the environmental aspect is also a larger aspect of the ESG rating. So I think with the help of IMT, I think if we are able to sensitize our members that how to be compliant to the ESG in terms of data, I am also here to listen to Sir to understand that what are the opportunities and challenges which are there in the ESG. From VI's end, I can assure that we can give all support in disseminating this knowledge to our members. And I'll not take much time. And I think it's a very critical thing. I know in some part of ESG is also like because it is mandated by SEBI. It's not done in that spirit. So I think as an industry, I feel that greenwashing is another challenge in the ESG aspect. So I think maybe sometime I think we can also sensitize the member that it is for the larger good of the nation and the country and the earth itself. I think it's very important that we are compliant to this not in the form of what is the law, but in the spirit also. So thank you, Giriji, for having me here, and I think it's a wonderful topic to brainstorm on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Suhas Budhe. Before I hand over the floor to the learned panelists, I would like to inform a few, since we are very less number of people here still, there are a few things which we must keep in mind, which may call as rules of the game, that these panelists will present their papers in say 15 minutes time, about 15-20 minutes time. Each of them will get 15 minutes time. And after they have completed, I request people not to ask them questions when they are presenting. Otherwise, what happens is the continuity of the presentation is not maintained. So once their presentation is over, then we will have question answer session. And that time it will be the floor will be open for question answers. That is my request to the participants, that please don't ask questions when they are making the presentations. With this, I now request the panelists, the first one, opening by Dr. Bigya Vermaji, for his presentation.
Good evening.
Good.
It certainly is a privilege for me to be here at VIA. It's a privilege for me to be here at VIA on behalf of IMT and also as a president of National HRD Network, Nagpur chapter. I've been in Nagpur for the past few months, but this is the first time I'm coming to this beautiful hall with such wonderful people. Thank you, Mr. Girish Bhai, for spearheading the entire initiative for today's meet. I'd like to thank Dr. Datta Rai, our Vice President, Dr. Vijay Pate, sir, and Professor Amitav Banerjee. The fact of the matter is, we were just having a quick chat at our institution few days back, and it so occurred that Nagpur is a city full of SMEs and MSMEs and all, and the concern for ESG is not so palpable, and it's not just for Nagpur, but it's for many other cities also. So we have such wonderful experts like Professor Amitav Banerjee, literally dealing with this kind of subject day and night. So why don't we do something for this city where we live in? And that's how this entire thing was conceptualized. And Sweta was the big, I would say, catalyst for driving this entire initiative and making it happen today. We've seen in the initial introduction that how the word from CSR to triple bottom line, the people, profit, and planet has moved on to what we call as the SDGs and now the ESG. Now, this is not a fashionable word at all. Make my word. Let me just tell you one simple example. In the past 40 years of our life, the amount of destruction we have created, we've done to this our own planet in which we live in, the only planet where we live in, has never ever happened in the past 40,000 years. That's how quickly we are destroying our own planet. And if this planet is not livable, if it is not sustainable for our kids, what's the point living? What's the point in doing anything at all? Now, so whether you're a businessman or an economist or a teacher or whatever, you have to be concerned. The kind of the way we are losing out species every now and then. I'll just give you an example. 1918, when the first Spanish flu hit us, the whole world, especially in the North America and the Europe side as such, in just a few minutes, in just a few hours, millions of people died. And that was one huge impact the virus can create. And exactly 100 years later, a little over 100 years later, something like COVID-19 hit the world as such. And don't forget the fact that in between, Ebola and Zika and all kinds of viruses had kept on hitting the world time and again, cautioning ourselves that it's not the way we can live in. The way the coal industry, the plastic industry, and many other industries are destroying the entire world planet as such is not going to sustain for a long, long time. And on top of that, we are doing experiments. And therefore, we were concerned about CSR, no doubt, we still are. But then, United Nations came out with the 17 goals, this SDG goals, sustainable development goals and all. And they said it's high time we talk about ESG. It's not a fashionable word. No more anyways. Go to the US and you'll see that the most sought after job is if you are an expert in ESG. And that's when you can actually, so I'd like to just set the context. My job is extremely easy today. I just want to set the context, give a brief introduction of what ESG is all about. Of course, we have experts like the panel, the wonderful panel we have. We will take you through the nuances of the entire ESG. So I want to show you a video of one gentleman called Al Gore. Al Gore was a vice president candidate when in the US. I think during one of those presidents, and he was doing very well, but he lost the election because he spoke about sustainability. He spoke about ensuring that US sustains in the long run as such. Now the Americans, being a businessman, they can't really take it, and therefore he lost it. But he made a wonderful video. It's a little longish one, but the one which I'm showing is an excerpt of that long video. So just about 3 minutes. Have a look into that and see how quickly we're. Now this is a 20-year-old video. And in the last 20 years, we have done a huge amount of harm to the world as such. Have a look at it.
If you look at the 10 hottest years ever measured, they've all occurred in the last 14 years. And the hottest of all was 2005. Scientific consensus is that we are causing global warming. I am Al Gore. I used to be the next president of the United States. This is Patagonia 75 years ago and the same glacier today. This is Mount Kilimanjaro 30 years ago and last year. Within the decade, there will be no more snows of Kilimanjaro. This is really not a political issue, it's a moral issue. Temperature increases are taking place all over the world, and that's causing stronger storms. Hurricane Katrina slammed into New Orleans. Is it possible that we should prepare against other threats besides terrorists?
From Paramount Classics comes a film that has shocked audiences everywhere they've seen it.
The Arctic is experiencing faster melt. If this were to go, sea level worldwide would go up 20 feet. This is what would happen in Florida. Around Shanghai, home to 40 million people. The area around Calcutta, 60 million. Here's Manhattan. The World Trade Center Memorial would be underwater. Think of the impact of a couple 100,000 refugees, and then imagine 100 million. We have to act together to solve this global crisis. Our ability to live is what is at stake.
Yeah. Okay, as I said earlier, that my job is just to set the context of the heavy discussion which will follow this one. And I said, like right at the beginning, that ESG is being taken very, very seriously in academia, in the business world, all over the world as such. And very soon, every one of us, right from SMEs and MSMEs to corporate and all, will have to comply. We always spoke about balance sheet. We always spoke about profit and loss statement. We only bothered to look into the profits and all. Not anymore. We'll have to come out with the ESG score. We'll have to come out with the SDG score, and that's how the organization is going to be compared. Now, mind one thing is that all those organizations, ESG people will think that it's an expensive matter. Not anymore. As a matter of fact, all those companies which are at kind of commanding values in the market, stock markets, are the ones who are very, very sincere about the entire ESG part. Now, what we're going to do is quickly, I'll just take you through. Now, we already see the video. Now, this is what I was saying. The COVID and all kinds of things are happening. By the way, even after COVID, not the world is not free from the COVID at all. COVID-19, people, all kinds of influenzas, all kinds of mutations are happening, and that's the reason why every one of us, including India, is extremely sincere and serious about making India free of kind of any net emission. It should be zero by 2070, etc. That we're talking about, and that's when the sustainable goals of UN has become important. Now, if you go to the UN website, you'll see that the kind of work which is happening in the sustainability. Let's look into where do we stand in the SDG matrix. We're bad. We're really, really bad. Out of 162 countries, we are ranked 116th. Now that's poorly. That's how poorly India is seen in terms of the SDG compliance. We are nowhere close. We are just a bit better than Pakistan, and we're going to be better than that. Now, this is the chart which I showed people. Will talk about it. People, profit, and planet research. Now, the green box which you're seeing is what we call as sustainability. Now, that's exactly what we are trying to focus on. How do we really objectively measure that? Is the discussion of the academia world as such? A lot of work is going on to literally document anything which the company does in terms of some kind of ESG score. So world has changed. It's no more just a CSR. It's not just I just give the money to a temple or to a school and therefore my job as a CSR is over. No more. It has to be seen from all the angles, what we call as the environmental, it can be social, and it has to be governance. Now, it has to be unique. Believe me, every industry, a coal company will have a different ESG, the choices. Similarly, a plastic company will have a different one, an IT company will have a different one. Now, all of them will have to be very, very, very different as such. Now, this is just a matter of a discussion with regard to as to what really should be included as a part of compliances and objectively measuring all these things. So this is how we were going to look into. Look at the companies are now facing environmental issues, and there are companies which are getting penalized also. The ESG, the environmental, the governance and social factor are being measured. And like for instance, I'll just give an example, like Indian Oil Corporation was fined 288 crores recently, just because they were not complying with the ESG requirement as such. Now, everything is real in India. Now, very soon is going to percolate. I'm just trying to convey the message that very soon is going to come percolate down to the what we call SMEs and MSMEs and all, and it's going to be extremely important for all of us. Some of the companies I want to show you are very, very respectable in terms of ESG compliance. Now, Cipla, a medical company, they produce pharma products, but despite being there, producing pharma products, is one of the best companies in terms of ESG compliance as such. Hindustan Unilever and world, if you look at the world map, Apple is one company which says by 2030, not a single product of Apple, right from boxes to the mobile which you use, every one of them is going to be ESG compliant. Now we're living in that world, and therefore we can't really ignore it. ESG is far, far bigger than anything which we thought about it, whether it's a CSR or triple bottom line. And it is now going to be measured in terms of some objective number. Give you an example, our own WCL, rated very poorly. It's got a rating of about 40 by CRISIL, means it's a dangerously kind of placed organization because they're manufacturing, they're producing coal, they're extracting coal from the, which leads to a lot of emissions. But nonetheless, the amount of work which WCL has been doing, for ensuring that they remain ESG compliant is humongous. Is absolutely just quite noticeable. So this is the context in which we'll have a discussion with the other two panels follow. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Bigyan Vermaji, for your presentation. And as it was mentioned by us, that it was regarding ESG metrics and overview. And as rightly pointed out by him, the metrics that matter to one company may not matter to the other company. And there are a few reasons also. The first one is the world is changing. The second is Gen Next is changing the way they think, act, and perceive the things. And the third thing was data analytics are involved to provide more information. He being a man from finance, he could have told more and more about finance, but he restricted himself to technical part of it. Thank you, sir, for your presentation. I now request Professor Amitabh Banerjee to kindly make his presentation on the subject, that is the sub-index value proposition of ESG.
A very good evening to all the distinguished panelists and members who have come from the industry. And I'll not take much of time in going around as to what ESG is all about and things. But I'm very happy that the job has been made easy by Vigyan sir and also members of EIA, because they've told me that CSR is something that we know, SEBI is there, top 1,000 listed companies. So I have a very informed audience, I would say. But I remember some instruction from Girish sir, and obviously he's a chartered accountant and an auditor, so I cannot, kind of overrule his instructions. So only English use, right? Now, what happens is when we talk of a subject which is basically alien, like Vigyan sir rightly mentioned, that it is something which originated in the Western world, right? So obviously something which is originating in the Western world, we take time to adapt. But if it is something Indian, we are used to it. So my job is to tell you as to, what is the value proposition or why should you even think of ESG? So I deal with only two simple questions, and I framed it because my Hindi writing is poor, so I did not. I tried taking the help of Google, but Google ne bhi galti kari, so I thought ke English mein likh deta. So the first question that I'll try to answer is, it says CSR hai, to fir ESG kyun? It's a basic question for everybody. भाई हम तो खुश है CSR से. सरकार ने कहा कि 2% देना है, तो सरकार ने कहा कि you have a list of items which is given in Schedule 7, which company secretaries and chartered accountants keep on telling people, पैसा डाल दो. But have you ever thought कि why did CSR come in? Because fortunately or unfortunately, I've been with the ministry when the Companies Act was being framed. I have seen the word move from may to shall. So in those days, when CSR was being formed, it was thought, okay, if you make it mandatory, तो सब कुछ ठीक हो जाएगा. But I think as industry and obviously people who are in academia know that not much impact has been generated. Money is going in, but the visible impacts have not yet been generated. So I'll just take you to the history of what CSR primarily is. It all started in 2009 with the voluntary guidelines. So if you read the voluntary guidelines, if you go back to like our Upanishads, history and all those things, you will see CSR and ESG were linked. It was not something which was detached. But with the movement of time, we had 2011 guidelines and so long, and we realized that 2013 Act is coming in, which is the revised version of Companies Act. So उस समय सरकार को लगा, with the ministry, कि we must make it mandatory. So पहले तो वो may word था, फिर सरकार ने सोचा कि नहीं, make it shall, so they made it shall. But the problem was, it is like in Bengalis we say कि Lakshmi and Saraswati should go hand in hand. So हमने क्या किया, सरस्वती को घर पे रख दिया and Lakshmi को कहा जाओ, go and fetch 2% of corporate funds. But funding without intellect does not create impact. But that is when all it started. It all started with 2013 Companies Act when CSR was left alone without intellect. Ke jao beta, these are the headings in Schedule 7 and you must get money into these activities. Now, I'll just give an example. You know, the latest entry in Schedule 7 was slum area investment, right? That was the last entry. Now, what was happening is if you see the areas in which you can invest under CSR funds, they talk of environment. Or say you're a software. Environment means what? पेड़, वातावरण ना, in Hindi you call it वातावरण. वातावरण में क्या आते हैं? हम आते हैं, आप आते हैं, पेड़ आते हैं, मछली आती है, हाथी आता है. Everything is an environment. So, as a software company, say if you're Infosys, if I invest in an environmental project wherein trees would be grown, what incentive do I get? See, I am a business, right? I always have to generate profit, and you know, many a times we say that companies should look at a larger picture, but I always believe that companies have to make profit, and if you analyze the provision of CSR, it does not say 2% of revenue. It does not say 2% of sales. What does it say? 2% of profit. मतलब मुनाफा कमाओ फिर समाज सेवा करो. तो मुनाफा जब मैंने इतनी मेहनत से कमाई है, तो जो समाज सेवा है उसमें से भी मैं अगर मुनाफा कमा लूं तो प्रॉब्लम कहां है? So you know, you cannot tell the business world that we will give you the items, you just blindly invest, because in CSR you could also give donations to certain funds and your obligation is over. It is like, you know, हम जो 31st March में LIC policy खरीदते हैं, 90% of the Indians buy LIC policy for what? Tax planning. Don't even know what are the benefits in the policy. Endowment policy क्या है? नहीं पता जी, 80C 80G में मिल रहा है ना, खरीद ले. So CSR came like that. Companies were insisted to invest, company invested without even knowing what are the benefits and what are they going to get. So my point is, you know, companies started investing, but they did not have any incentive. Like some area development, just सोचो, आपका फैक्ट्री है, आपके फैक्ट्री के 2 किलोमीटर में एक स्लम है, you decide कि मैं इस स्लम को तोड़ के अच्छा मकान बनाऊंगा. If you see Schedule 7, you can just check it up. It says state or central government approved. मतलब वो जो slum area development आप करोगे, that slum somewhere has to be approved or recognized. You just can't pick up any slum and start redeveloping it. मतलब क्या, पहले मैं सरकार के पास जाऊंगा, सरकार ये slum है, मैं इसको redevelopment करना चाहता हूँ, देखो सबके आधार है, नहीं, पहला आप उनके आधार कार्ड बनाओगे, प्रोजेक्ट को गवर्नमेंट अप्रूव कराओगे, तब तक तो you'll lose the interest and these people may move out. So CSR का main intent था क्या? To bring about measurable changes in this society, which is being forced or which is being somehow been put by the industry as such. It never happened because it was pure expenditure oriented. CSR was never impact oriented. पैसा डालो, कहाँ डाल दो? फिर 2022 में या 23 में impact assessment शुरू हो. लोगों ने कहा पैसा जा रहा है, इम्पैक्ट नहीं आ रहा है, बच्चे पढ़ नहीं रहे, मिड डे मील में बच्चे जा रहे हैं सिर्फ खाना खाने, एजुकेशन नहीं हो रही. Midday meal was primarily started not only to feed people but also to induce students to go to schools so that they could educate it. वहां पे क्या हो रहा था, लोग खाना खा के वापस आ जाते. No education is happening. So then came impact assessment, but then again the issue was impact assessment report was not pre-investment, it was post-investment. आपने पैसे डाल दिया, then you are assessing. Now, you know, the evil lied in bifurcating Saraswati and Lakshmi. CSR was trying to survive in the industry, but CSR did not have the intellect, it did not have the larger vision. ESG वो पढ़ा रहा था in the NVG guidance. Now it's 2013 and then 2014, and after a couple of years we have 2023. And in 2023, SEBI comes out in May with BRSR. Have you ever thought अब BRSR क्यों? क्योंकि अब उनको लगने लग गया कि सिर्फ खर्चे से नहीं बात बनेगी, इसके पीछे इंटेलेक्ट लाना होगा, प्लानिंग लानी होगी, and impact has to be generated. And that's the reason, if you see, I have just made a quick comparison as to what ESG is and CSR is. You know, क्योंकि ESG and CSR were brothers and sisters, but एक को आगे लाया गया. It had to be sequential that ESG was destined to come in because there are fundamental differences between ESG and CSR. CSR was expense oriented, but ESG primarily is impact oriented. CSR is local. You have a territorial limit. ESG, you can't say ना कि मेरे यहाँ पे carbon monoxide है तो दिल्ली में नहीं होगी. You can do it anywhere. Your impact could be anywhere. You're talking of a global level. Now, the weakness of CSR actually made the ground of ESG. क्योंकि वो अकेला कमजोर पड़ गया था. It was not able to generate the kind of social change or whatever change. ESG had to be brought in. अब देखो, if you see the concept of CSR, it was expenditure without much happening. But if you see what ESG is, so I've just pointed out the benefits of ESG from a report which was by UN Global Compact, and now see from a businessman's point of view. Business को क्या चाहिए? It says identify emerging risk. CSR में risk assessment है? नहीं है जी. It talks about new business opportunities. है? नहीं है जी. So if you see all the items which are primarily the driving forces of ESG, you see business in it. अरे बाबा, अगर business ही नहीं survive करेगा तो कहां से profit होगा और कहां से ESG and CSR करोगे? So SEBI realized it कि नहीं, you have to give that liberty to the business to understand and determine where to invest. So we came up with BRR, and then today we have for top 1000 listed companies BRSR. So अब जो है लक्ष्मी और सरस्वती की जोड़ी पूरी हुई है. CSR में तो आप कर ही रहे हो. If you are within the threshold of certain turnover and assets, वो तो करना ही है. But now companies, देखना, every big company is mapping CSR with ESG and ESG with SDG. So now we have been given the upper hand to spend the way we like spend to get the maximum return on investment. Now, how did it move? Now you've seen, it's the next slide. Okay. So now if you see the metrics, BRSR came in. In between, very recently, BRSR was further amended wherein they require third-party audit of BRSR. But one main term that makes it mandatory for even unlisted company is the word called value chain partners. अब है ना अगला क्वेश्चन, कहां लिखा है भाई कि CSR छोड़ दो या फिर कहां लिखा है ESG हम पे एप्लीकेबल? दिस इज द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन दैट इंडस्ट्री आस्क्स मी. सर दिखा रहे MSME तो मेरे कोई सर्टिफिकेशन नहीं आई है. सर MCA ने तो कहा नहीं है. बिल्कुल नहीं था. But it is an indirect implication that you have to understand, because BRSR talks of value chain partners. Who are your value chain partners? Everybody who is supplying to the main entity. If it is Maruti, जो टायर बेच रहा है, जो स्टीयरिंग बेच रहा है, they are all part of value chain partners. And it specifically says कि 75% of your value chain partners, upstream, downstream, जो भी हो, उनकी रिपोर्टिंग करनी है. And in this phased manner, you also have to do a third party audit. मतलब डेटा चाहिए, और डेटा फालतू में नहीं होगा. Data has to be backed by actions. You don't think an auditor will give you a certificate just like that if there are no actions backed on your data. Hence, because of the word of value chain, ESG is now applicable even for unlisted companies, MSMEs, anything which is a supplier of any big group. There is no specific notification. The devil lies in the detail. Value chain. Now, quickly moving on to some questions. One of the ways of understanding a subject is, there are two ways. Chartered accountants, company secretaries take that way. There was a zamana, my father was 1967 CA. So, उस समय ना लोग syllabus खोलते थे और books apply करते. क्योंकि उस जमाने में scanner या compendium नहीं. But there are students like Amitabh Banerjee. हमने कभी syllabus देखा ही नहीं. हमने क्या किया? सीधा important questions उठा लिया पिछले 5 साल. And we started doing probability. Because we were doing CA and CS simultaneously. है ना भाई, ऐसे करते हैं. Right? You won't say yes in front of Vigyan sir, but we do this probability. So, I thought that instead of going into the entire syllabus of ESG, which will take time, I'll go into the important questions. इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस अगर आप देख लोगे तो थोड़ा तो आइडिया हो जाएगा ना कि ईएसजी क्या है. तो माय फर्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन व्हाट आई ट्राई टू डू इज कि जितने इंपॉर्टेंट, अच्छा I have PhDs and I have also survived the journey of PhD. तो PhD में PhD से ज्यादा I think the methodology is important. How are you taking the methodology? So I will also tell you the methodology. How did I bring out the questions from a BRSR report? Very simple. Control F and I did value chain. 12 जगह आपको value chain मिल जाए. तो मेरी research methodology is done सब. ऐसा नहीं कि मैंने ये लिखा है questions. You can also do it. So whenever you are seeing anything, you must understand भाई research methodology क्या है. मेरी methodology तो was control F. You can check it out. Because no methodology should be such which cannot be verified. Verify it yourself, right? Now let me quickly take the questions. First question is sustainable sourcing. One of the first question is value chain से नहीं पूछा जा रहा है. Again, MSME से नहीं पूछा जा रहा है. पूछा जा रहा है main entity से the listed entity. उससे पूछा जा रहा है how have you sourced your raw material. बस इतना सा बता दो. अब raw material supplier कौन है? You and me. So value chain when I'm talking about sustainability and sustainable sourcing, they have to source their raw material from a company which is doing sustainable business. Like for example, if you see Tata, I've been an impact assessment auditor in Tata. So what they do is when they gather their tea leaves, they only take the raw material from a firm or a tea estate which is Trust Tea certified. अब ये जो ट्रस्ट टी सर्टिफिकेशन है, इट इज अ ग्लोबल काइंड ऑफ अ सर्टिफिकेशन व्हिच सेज दैट यू हैव यूज्ड ऑर्गेनिक फर्टिलाइजर, यू हैव यूज्ड वाटर प्रॉपर्ली, दिस दैट. सो टाटा टी ना हर एरे से चाय नहीं खरीद. Now you have to disclose it, and obviously when you're saying that my supply chain is certified, you have to be certified. Now, I just thought of why not give you an example. I'll give it in the next slide. So, एक तो sourcing पे question आएगा syllabus में. So, obviously, if you are not certified, how will the main entity say that I'm sourcing it from a proper source? अगला question. अच्छा, I've also mentioned, see in ESG, which I think Sir would be better able to explain, and he will, that for every aspect, even Vigyan sir mentioned that legal compliance is the must. See, if you are not legally complying, you cannot say that I do social stuff. I mean, you have this Carroll's pyramid, which we keep on learning in management, that you should be firstly legal compliant, then you should generate profit, and then you think of CSR. वो pyramid है ना Carroll का इधर. So if you visualize that, पहले तो legal आता ही है. So in every column you will see I have mentioned legal, legal, and legal. But वो तो syllabus में है because that is a mandate. Now let's see quickly what the other thing says. Say social. अब social में there is one more aspect that you should get conscious of: the labor codes. Please keep it in mind that labor codes are yet not applicable because of state regulations, but it is a reality. Just like CAA, mark my words, बहुत जल्दी ये labor codes आ जाएंगे, and you must understand the labor codes because society में first thing that they are talking of is the societal impact, including your workers. Now this was a major drawback in CSR. CSR restricted fund use for your workers. उसने कहा एम्प्लॉय को छोड़ दो. अब कितना बुरा लगेगा कि एम्प्लॉय को आप फ्री में ट्रीटमेंट नहीं दे रहे हो और बाहर वाले को आप बुला बुला के कह रहे हो बेटा आ जाओ ट्रीटमेंट हो रही है हमारे हॉस्पिटल में. Because it was restricted. Here it starts with your employees. It says that you can invest in your employees. You can have diversity, you can have equity, you can employ people with disablement, so on and so forth. So social media, if you see, it talks of well-being. Again, value chain. Then measures undertaking or statutory compliance, value chain. So value chain is you and me. जो हम सोच रहे थे ना कि MSME कहाँ है? हम ही तो है value chain. Third most important part, governance. Now, in India, we do not have specific laws on anti-bribery and corruption. कोई specific law नहीं है. The law pertains only to the government sector. However, ESG makes it mandatory that you must have a framework for anti-bribery law, which means you also have to tell your value chain partners who's mat dena. Because if a value chain partner is seen to give bribe and obviously he gets caught, both things go together, then the main reporting entity, which is the listed entity reporting in BRSR, will also be held responsible. इसी को law में कहते हैं principal agent relationship. You know, the agent cannot do something wrong, otherwise the principal will be held responsible. अब आपको मैं कोई reality दिखा रहा हूँ, because कभी-कभी हमें लगता है ना कि this is so far away. ये दिल्ली तो दूर है, दिल्ली की बात है. ESG. Quickly, because I don't have time, I'll show you ESG has actually entered your home. ये पैकेट दिख रहा है आपको? कभी आप ये ब्लिंकेट का पैकेट पलटा के देखो. नीचे क्या है लोगो? It is called Forest Stewardship Council. ESG is already in your house. You don't realize it. Forest Stewardship Council का मतलब है sustainable sourcing. मतलब ये जो कंपनी ये थैला बना रही है, it is sourcing its raw materials from a forest which is being grown without degrading the land or maybe using some extra land or rainwater harvesting करके ये थैला बन रहा है. That is how this is getting into the blanket food chain. So I have friends who have started their company. Their product got approved, but because of the packaging, they are not able to export. So you also have to keep it in mind the packaging that you are doing. That is the most important thing nowadays because it is a total thing. You cannot export to other countries when your packaging is not eco-friendly. Quickly moving on, you have questions like percentage of value chain partners that were assessed on environmental grounds. Then just think, what is ESG? It is comply or explain. अब अगर हर साल आपके पास एक क्वेश्चन आता है लिस्टेड कंपनी से, have you done this, have you done this, have you done this, and you say no, we are doing. What will the listed company do after say 3 years or 2 years of no, हाँ कोशिश कर रहे हैं? What will the listed company do? They will simply replace you. इसीलिए मैंने रेड में हाईलाइट किया है because they are also asking what mitigation measures are you taking if a value chain partner is not doing anything. आप warning भी कितने बार दोगे? 1 साल दोगे, 2 साल दोगे, 3rd year you will replace the supplier. क्योंकि उसकी ESG score खराब हो रही है ना. You understand? Reputation listed company की खराब हो रही है. So there is a high probability that if you don't start following ESG measures, you will be eliminated. That is the risk that you have. That is why the value proposition. That is why if you see the questions and the answers, you will see that there is a business sense to all the questions, and it will hit your existence. Quickly moving on. मेरे बातों पे भरोसा एकदम मत करो, क्योंकि गलती इंसानों से होती है. Like with the auditor here, obviously he'll ask कि कहाँ लिखा हुआ है, because in my service life of 20 years, whenever I used to, as a young company secretary, whenever I used to tell my boss कि सर ये है, कहाँ लिखा है. So then I realized कि पहले से ना फोटोकॉपी लेके जाओ कि सर यहाँ लिखा हुआ है. So ESG is for MSMEs. मैंने तो एक conclusive derivation दिया ना. This is more like a PhD topic, right? I am trying to prove a theory. But you are all real life customers. You don't believe in theories and theses. आपको कहाँ लिखा है दिखाओ, देख लो. The main document, that is the 2009 document, was amended later on, and the document is now called National Guidelines for Responsible Business Conduct. It is available on the MCA website. So, basis this document, the BRSR has been constructed. BRSR से I told you my research methodology कि मैंने questions कहाँ से copy paste किया है. So BRSR is primarily based on this document, और इस document में annexure 2, go there, it talks of MSMEs. मतलब हमने ये document तो पढ़ा ही नहीं है, इसीलिए जो लोग syllabus खोल के पढ़ते हैं ज्यादा score कर लेते हैं, मेरे जैसे बंदे पास हो जाते. So syllabus पढ़नी चाहिए, right? Herein you will find that they have divided the MSMEs into 3 different categories. MSMEs in India to whom ESG will apply has been properly defined in this document, and they're talking of startups also. Lastly, to quickly conclude, what are the benefits of getting into ESG? obviously you have greater visibility, risk is less, so on and so forth. So I was just thinking कि ये सब तो कहीं सुनी बातें हुई, market में क्या हो रहा है? You know, very recently, RBI only in Feb 2024 has come out with a risk disclosure network. कि भाई आपको जितने भी banks हैं, they have to give a risk disclosure. So RBI has करता है bank, but very recently in December 2022, SIDBI, which is MSME's छोटा भाई, they had done a research study with Dun and Bradstreet in order, ये मैंने photograph डाल दिया, you can just Google it. They did this research study to create an index. अब आपको क्या लगता है सिडबी इंडेक्स क्यों बना रही है? क्यों बना रही है इंडेक्स? क्योंकि कल जब सिडबी आपको पैसा देगी, they will ask भैया स्कोर बताओ, इंडिया कितना, पाकिस्तान वाला स्कोर नहीं, तुम्हारी अपनी ESG स्कोर क्या है? Anybody who's interested in getting a future loan could refer to this document. It is just a 36-page document, but it gives you the feeling कि अच्छे दिन आने वाले, right? And that is why I would like to quickly end by saying that don't look at what you will lose, look at what you will gain. क्योंकि मेरे लाला जी जब भी मैं जाता था ना, लाला जी कहते थे यार ये compliance जरूरी है, तो मैं कहता था सर नॉन compliance में बस जेल है, एक बार देख लो, बाकी आप भी कर दो. So that's all from my side. I hope I have maintained the timelines.
Thank you, Professor Amitabh Banerjee, for really, I can say, short में तो बिल्कुल नहीं elucidating this particular issue. और जैसा आपने सही कहा, सबसे पहले तो आपने इंग्लिश भी यूज किया, thank you for that. And as you put up two questions in form, that is CSR है तो ESG क्यों? ये आपने जो क्वेश्चन डाला वो absolutely सही है. Then second was कहाँ लिखा है कि ESG जरूरी है? ये दो बातें they are very important. And as of now, as you are aware that I am a MSME chairman of VI, and many people ask me when the circulars were sent, इसको हमको लागू नहीं होता. As you rightly pointed out, that it is applicable to MSMEs also, and you have clarified how it is applicable. That is very important. So one, this comes in newspapers also. People will understand that yes, MSMEs are also falling in this. The best example you gave was Blinkit का भी तो हमारे घर में already आ चुका है. It was a very classic example. And among the ESG, whatever they have added, especially to social, was the labor standards. कि हमारे लोगों के लिए भी हम खर्चे कर सकते हैं जो CSR में नहीं कर सकते. That is a very important thing you discussed. And under governance, he also discussed about ethics as well as involvement in corruption. So these are certain things which you have covered in your value proposition of ESG. It was really, we have learned a lot from your presentations. I now request, thank you once again, sir. I now request Dr. Garvey to kindly come forward and make a presentation on ESG, the ground realities.
Very good evening, all of you. I am thankful and grateful to BI as well as IMT and NHRDN for taking initiative. Probably on ESG, this might be the first of its own kind. We are touching this topic. And as rightly said by Professor Banerjee, उपनिषद और वेदास में जो लिखा है कि पहले लक्ष्मी जाती है और सरस्वती पीछे से आती है. एकेडमिक से मैं भी आया हूँ. 17-18 साल पीजी डिपार्टमेंट में काम करने के बाद में कंसल्टेंसी में आया और लेबोरेटरी में आया, और मैंने देखा कि अगर सरस्वती में पावर है तो लक्ष्मी पीछे से आती है. ये मेरा एग्जांपल मैं आपके सामने दे रहा हूँ. दूसरा, ये ESG क्यों आया है? इसमें CSR में जो आपने एक्शंस ली है फॉर इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, उसका जो एक्चुअल इम्पैक्ट ऑन द सोसाइटी है, वो गैप को ब्रिज अप करने के लिए ESG आया है. तो इसमें ये टेक अवे ये है IMT के लिए कि एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैव अ ब्राइट फ्यूचर इन फ्यूचर फॉर दिस ESG ऑडिटिंग. ये एक पार्ट हो गया. दूसरा, मैं पॉलिटिशियन नहीं हूं, मैं साइंटिस्ट हूं. ESG का जो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है इंडिया में, भले ही आज के दिन में 116 नंबर पे है, पर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट आज बार बार क्यों रिपीट हो रहा है गए 10 साल से? क्योंकि गवर्नेंस में आखिरी तबके का जो आदमी है उसको गवर्नमेंट का फायदा हो रहा है, ये वैलिड प्रूफ है ESG का। तो जब सरकार रेगुलेशन बनाती है तो पहले खुद फॉलो करती है। तो आने वाले दिनों में ये दो एग्जांपल्स मैंने जो दिए कि CSR का और ESG का इंपॉर्टेंस कैसा बढ़ने वाला है, क्योंकि हम लोग अभी सेकंड इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन से आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। थोड़ा सा ये सेट कर देंगे, ये शायद एक्सपांड हुए हैं। तो आने वाले दिनों में इसका एस्पेक्ट और इम्पैक्ट क्या क्या होने वाला है। तो आज के टॉपिक में मैं थोड़ा सा SME और MSME के लिए ESG का सिंपल लैंग्वेज में एक्सप्लेनेशन देने के लिए यहाँ आया हूँ। और हम लोग आज का ये सेशन होने के बाद में आपके जो भी इश्यूज है वो हम डिस्कस करेंगे। तो ESG की चैलेंजेस और लर्निंग्स क्या है? काफी कुछ टॉपिक्स सर ने ऑलरेडी कवर किया है। मेरा पोर्शन जो है टेक्निकल एस्पेक्ट्स में, ड्यूरिंग लास्ट फ्यू इयर्स एवरीबडी वी आर एक्सपीरियंसिंग द इफेक्ट्स ऑफ क्लाइमेट चेंज एंड हेंस developed and developing countries all across the globe have signed an international agreement for reducing carbon emissions, which is the cause of concern for everybody. We need a place for use of traditional and renewable fuels to save the fossil fuel and to reduce the carbon. Effective adoption of ESG practices enables administration as well as the regulators for adopting sustainable practices. Generally, whenever MSMEs as well as SMEs are running, they are taking licenses from all these acts. Partially in bits and pieces, these acts are already covering and addressing the issues of ESG, that is Environment Protection Act, Air Pollution Control Act, Water Prevention Control Act, Hazardous Waste Act, then Companies Act, Securities and other acts sir have already covered. These are the ESG frameworks which calls for changes. Each organization, each industry is different. So while addressing the ESG issues, the aspects involved while running the industry needs to be addressed, and it should be local specific, it should be industry specific. Once the organization starts earning profits, starts implementing CSR, then the role of this ESG starts. So allocation of budgets, then it starts with energy audit initially, and then use of renewable energy. How much carbon I am saving by switching over to solar, that is renewable power, that is second stage. And then year on year, you just go on addressing the ESG aspects during audit purpose. Then how you are optimizing the natural resources. So in case, I will just narrate one example. In case some industry is manufacturing polymers and they have adopted the technology way back in 90s, and now they are going for expansion mode. So for production of 1 ton of ABS, how much energy is required, how much waste they are generating in terms of air, water, hazardous waste like this. And now when they are switching over for expansion, the latest technologies, that is clean technologies which are available, the best in the world, they just start evaluation and then they select the technology. So here the role of environment is very much important, and these are important aspects while selecting the technologies for clean production processes. All these aspects are already covered in ESG audit. Existing and proposed scenarios are compared, then changeover from a conventional grid power sources to renewable power sources, change of fuel, that is use of renewable fuels, and then integrating all these approaches to achieving net zero, that is carbon credits, how you are reducing in your production process. All these calculations are made. I will just give few examples how industries are adopting all these. Then ESGs are reporting with value proposition. Whatever data with respect to that industry is collected in terms of environment, in terms of sustainability, in terms of recycling, all these data is analyzed and interlinked, and finally it is interpreted in a standard format as per the standard guideline, and then report is prepared. So what are the takeaways for MSME and the support system and the incentives available in the existing Indian scenario? MSMEs as well as SMEs can go for initially for this ESG adoption. Initially they can go for bronze type of certification in which only 5 parameters are considered. Because whenever industry is switching over from a conventional approach to ESG compliant, because they want to grow their products, they should be acceptable to a ESG compliant company. So they should go step by step. It should not be like, अरे यार इसका बजट तो बहुत ज्यादा है, मेरा सर्वाइवल डिफिकल्ट हो जाएगा. इसीलिए गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने इसमें 3 स्टेजेस बनाए हैं. इनिशियली ब्रॉन्ज सर्टिफिकेशन के लिए जाएंगे जिसमें 5 पैरामीटर्स होते हैं. सेकंड इज सिल्वर सर्टिफिकेशन जिसमें 14 पैरामीटर्स होते हैं. थर्ड इज गोल्ड सर्टिफिकेशन जिसमें 20 पैरामीटर्स रहते हैं. और ये सब ऑडिट और सर्टिफिकेशन करने के लिए आपको जो कुछ भी खर्चा आता है वो MSME आपको रिएम्बर्स करके देती है. ये एक बहुत बड़ा इंसेंटिव है इसमें. और ये अगर आपने सर्टिफिकेशन कर लिया तो यू आर एलिजिबल फॉर रिड्यूस्ड रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. एंड सिडबी इज द बेस्ट एग्जांपल. दे कंसीडर ऑल दीज एस्पेक्ट्स और सिडबी का रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट लोन और इसके लिए सबसे कम. देन ESG फंड्स का यूटिलाइजेशन कैसे करना है, ये भी एस्पेक्ट्स इसमें कवर किया गया है. इसके बाद में आपका अगर कंपनी अच्छा चल रहा है तो इन्वेस्टर्स और कंज्यूमर्स का इसके बारे में क्या रवैया है, ये इस स्लाइड में दिया है. कंपनीज हैव विटनेस्ड द चेंज व्हेन दे गो फॉर पब्लिक ऑफरिंग. ये एस्पेक्ट ऑलरेडी सर ने कवर कर लिया है. देन ओवरसीज कंपनी जो आपके प्रोडक्ट्स को इंपोर्ट कर रही है वो पहले प्रिफर करते हैं कि कौन से प्रोडक्ट को ESG कंप्लायंट है. उनका पहला स्टेट ये रहता है एस्पेक्ट हो, और जो कंप्लाई कर रहा है उसी को वो ऑर्डर जाता है. इवन इंडिया में आज स्टेज वाइज ये ESG का इम्प्लीमेंटेशन हो रहा है. जैसे बड़े कंपनीज में टाटा स्टील हो गए और ये जितने भी कैडिला हो गए, ये वेंडर सिलेक्शन में अगर आप उनको रॉ मटेरियल सप्लाई कर रहे हैं, सर्विसेज ऑफर कर रहे हैं, तो उनके वेंडर रजिस्ट्रेशन फॉर्म में ये ESG के एस्पेक्ट्स बिल्ट इन रहते हैं. और जैसा सर ने बताया कि भाई हम करेंगे हम करेंगे हम करेंगे, वो हर साल आपको ये रिव्यू कर रहे हैं. और अगर आपने तीसरे साल भी नहीं किया तो ऑटोमेटिकली वो ऑर्डर किसी और को चले जाता है. तो आने वाले दिनों में ESG का एस्पेक्ट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रहने वाला है. और ESG का जो एम्पावरमेंट है, ये अल्टीमेटली इसका एस्पेक्ट क्या होने वाला है कि जो आप CSR में कर रहे हैं वो ग्राउंड रियलिटी में कन्वर्ट हो रहा है कि नहीं. और जहां आपका प्लांट चल रहा है उसके 10 किलोमीटर के परिधि में आपने CSR को कौन से प्रोजेक्ट्स इंप्लीमेंट किए हैं, ESG के कौन कौन से प्रोजेक्ट्स इंप्लीमेंट किए हैं, और उसकी ग्राउंड रियलिटी में इंप्लीमेंटेशन में क्या इम्पैक्ट हुआ है, ये ऑडिटर देखता है. और अल्टीमेटली इसका रिजल्ट क्या निकलता है कि क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ, सराउंडिंग एरिया में जो क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ है, उस क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ में सराउंडिंग एरिया के पॉपुलेशन का, कम्युनिटी का होगा, आपके एम्प्लॉयज का होगा, आपके एम्प्लॉयज के मॉरल का होगा, और अल्टीमेटली इट ऑल कल्मिनेट्स इनटू योर हायर आउटपुट, हायर परफॉर्मेंस। इसीलिए जितने भी इंडिया में आज आईटी कंपनीज है, as compared to other sectors of industry, they are very fastly approaching towards ESG compliance and they are aiming for carbon neutrality. हमने देखा है कि एक जैसा डाटा सेंटर है, अब डेटा सेंटर यानी आईटी कंपनी का एक एस्पेक्ट है, हम लोग नेशनलाइज बैंक से एनईएफटी करते हैं, ऑनलाइन ट्रांजैक्शन, ये 24 आवर चलता है। तो ये 24 आवर बैंक तो चालू नहीं रहती है, फिर ये होता कैसा है? तो इसमें रिजर्व बैंक ने लोकेशन वाइज डेटा सेंटर्स का एक नेटवर्क खड़ा किया है, और ये डेटा सेंटर में केवल सर्वर्स रहते हैं, मल्टी फ्लोर बिल्डिंग रहती है 15 फ्लोर की, और उस 15 फ्लोर को उसमें थाउजेंड्स ऑफ सर्वर्स रहते हैं, और ये सर्वर्स जो है 24 आवर्स ऑपरेशन में रहते हैं। और इस सर्वर्स को आपका जो टेम्परेचर है, उसका जो हीट जनरेशन होता है, वो एस्पेक्ट्स को एड्रेस करते हुए वहां का एसी चलते रहना चाहिए, वहां का यूपीएस चलते रहना चाहिए, 24 आवर पावर सप्लाई रहना चाहिए। तो हम लोग जब उसका इम्पैक्ट एनालिसिस करते हैं और जब देखते हैं, तो उस डेटा सेंटर में 100 मेगावाट का डेली इलेक्ट्रिकल कंजम्पशन है। अब ग्रिड पावर में जो पावर आ रही है, देयर आर 2 डिफरेंट ग्रिड कनेक्शंस की, एक अगर फेल हो गया तो विद इन पिको सेकंड वो स्विच ओवर हो जाता है। और गवर्नमेंट जब ऐसे डेटा सेंटर को पावर सप्लाई देती है, वो 24 आवर का एग्रीमेंट करती है फेलियर नहीं होने के लिए। अगर उनको स्विच ओवर करना है तो पहले फोन जाता है उस डेटा सेंटर में, पर इसके अलावा भी उनके पास में बैकअप डीजी सेट्स रहते हैं। तो सेंट्रलाइज आप इमेजिन कीजिए, 100 मेगावाट के डीजी सेट्स आप मेंटेन कर रहे हैं, उस डेटा सेंटर में डीजल के और ये फ्यूल के बड़े बड़े टैंक्स रहते हैं 1000 किलोलीटर के बिलो ग्राउंड लेवल। और ये डीजी सेट भी अगर फेल हो गया तो फ्लोर वाइज देयर आर सेपरेट डीजी सेट्स, कि अगर वो भी पावर सप्लाई बंद हो गया तो उस फ्लोर का चालू रहेगा और मेरा सर्वर चालू रहेगा। सो ये डेटा सेंटर के ये गाइडलाइंस है, और ये गाइडलाइंस गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने अप्रूव किए हैं, और उनके ऊपर डायरेक्टली रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया का कंट्रोल रहता है। तो ऐसे एस्पेक्ट्स जो है ये बहुत कुछ रहते हैं इसमें, और ये डेटा सेंटर्स भी दे आर नाउ एमिंग फॉर 100% कार्बन न्यूट्रलिटी। इसके बाद में जितनी भी आईटी कंपनीज है, लाइक इन्फोसिस हो गए, ये जितने भी है, दे आर आल्सो मार्चिंग अहेड। सेंट्रलाइज सोलर पावर जनरेशंस के प्लांट्स अभी आ रहे हैं और वो ग्रिड सप्लाई देते हैं, and they are signing the power purchase agreement with these IT companies. So lot of things are happening in India. Since we are handling the industrial issues, we know the ground realities. So with these few words, I conclude my presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you.
थैंक यू डॉक्टर गारवे, आपने भी हिंदी में बोला, इसलिए धन्यवाद। हिंदी को टच कर लिया। Then what is important is he also some very new thing which I had not read up till now was about the bronze, silver and gold parameters which are important. And most important thing is the MSME certification का जो reimbursement होता है, because I am dealing with MSMEs, I know there is a law, there is an act that if you get these, if you submit as per the parameters, whatever is the cost, that also you get. He also spoke about SIDBI. I am already working with SIDBI for project loans, and lowest rate of interest is 7% से नीचे रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट आपका लोन हो जाता है, तो एमएसएमई को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। एंड व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट इज वेदर इट इज यू टेक एनी वर्ड आउट ऑफ द 3, वेदर इट इज ई, एस और जी, व्हाट इज वाज इंपॉर्टेंट इज क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ। फाइनली क्या करने के बाद में हमारा क्वालिटी ऑफ लाइफ इंप्रूव कैसा होगा, ये बहुत जरूरी है। सबसे बड़ा ये सामने स्क्रीन पे दिख रहा है, ये तो मुझे पता नहीं था बीइंग इनटू फाइनेंस आल्सो, दैट इसका एयूएम ऑफ द ईएसजी म्यूचुअल फंड्स ये कहां से कहां अभी 14,000 करोड़ तो 2 साल पहले चले गया है। So हो सकता है कि the AUM may keep on increasing of the mutual funds. So based on whatever we have heard all the learned faculties, I can say that a few years back the investors used to invest looking into the technology part of the project. But now in future terms, especially if you have to get money from the foreign investors, they will definitely look into CSR, BRSR and ESG reporting, which the innovators will look before investing. And even the smaller part, as you said that SLB ho gaya, banks ho gaya, they are also indirectly they'll be looking at those companies. Now how MSME will be affected, directly affect nahi hota, but indirectly jarur affect hone wala hai. So with this, I thank all the three speakers for their presentations, and their presentations in definitely time. Thode se we started a bit late, so I don't know how many questions we'll be able to take. But if there are any questions, we can have a few questions if you want. We have with us Milind Chittawar, who is a very reputed person from Nagpur, India. But in case you have specific questions, then some boss look, I know all of them. So in case specific questions.
And first of all, thanks to VIA for organizing this very relevant session. Right now, the main point is like what ESG has to offer has been explained, right? But how do you really sensitize the MSME or even the larger industry, right, on going for real ESG? So on that, some thought process, how to sensitize them to take the benefit of all this.
Today's session only, but maybe you can speak more. I think money is the best motivator. Reimbursement of cost, मतलब ना हींग लगे ना फटकरी ना चौका. Right? So you have to first tell them that this is not going to be a cost. It will be reimbursed. Next is, you don't look at what you're going to lose, but what you're going to gain in terms of international visibility, funding. So if we can create a positive benchmarking that ये ना तो cost लग रहा है और आपको और opportunities मिल रहे हैं, क्योंकि हम हर जगह क्या करते हैं, trade off करते हैं. Cost benefit analysis is the rule of all businesses. So अगर हम cost benefit analysis में benefit दिखाए, cost is already embedded. See, if I say employee welfare, so you're already doing employee welfare because of PF, gratuity, bonus, law के लिए तो आप कर ही लो. But you may not be accounting those benefits in terms of ESG because what you're doing is mere compliance. हाँ भैया PF काट लिया, दवा के लिए इतना पैसा दे दिया. Maybe you're not even highlighting those activities which you're doing off and on because you don't realize कि ESG में ये reporting हो सकती है. So what thing is, what we should do is like go back home and think कि इसकी quantitative aspect तो हो रही है, क्या इसमें qualitative aspect हो? So ESG is not purely क्योंकि ESG क्या है, is non-financial primarily. So obviously जब हम कर ही रहे हैं, एक बंदे की अगर हम दवाई दे रहे हैं और दवाई के साथ वो बंदा वापस आ रहा है और वो थैंक्स कह रहा है और वो कह रहा है मैं अपने बेटे को भी, like we have employee loyalty schemes. अगर कोई बंदा रिटायर कर रहा है and in big fours we have it. अगर आप किसी एम्प्लॉय को इंट्रोड्यूस करो ना, you get incentives. क्या होता है कि if you hire from outside, it will cost you. So big fours क्या करते हैं? They say तुम्हारा भाई like my brother-in-law is a CA. When my wife was working, they asked CA बन गया. अब क्या? तो my wife said कि भाई वो जाएगा Deloitte में. बोला क्यों नहीं? एक बार यहाँ चांस देखे. तो फिर she asked my brother-in-law कि भाई क्या करोगे? जाओगे? She works for Havels. So जाओगे? हाँ. तो देखते हैं Havels में. Then obviously HR ने कहा कि भावना there is an incentive scheme also. मैंने कहा क्या incentive scheme promotion? बोला नहीं, if he gets selected then you get a statement benefit of 20,000 rupees. तो मैंने बोला कि 20,000 rupees देखो लाला ऐसा तो नहीं देता है, 20,000 रुपए. Then I asked भावना पूरा scheme पढ़ा. So when I read the scheme, it said that when you are introducing your known person, you are also taking the guarantee, which means कि आप उसकी quality ensure करो. तो उसमें फायदा किसको है? कंपनी 20,000 में एक लॉयल एम्प्लॉय मांग रही है जिसके लिए ऑलरेडी एक 20 साल की employee काम कर रहा है. You will not get any hiring agency giving you that kind of guarantee.
Any question, Utkarsh?
I think I'm very thankful to IMT and in fact Dr. Garvey for highlighting this ESG because I am also in the field of environment. We provide water and wastewater treatment plant for food and dairy industry in India. And we are the largest in terms of that as regards to this type of sector, whether Haldiram, Balaji, Bikaji, PepsiCo, Hindustan Coca-Cola, you name the industry, we are there. Right? Even the dairy is also like that. But as per my experience, what we are doing now in the wastewater treatment, we are giving them a biogas. Now we are giving after biogas, we have converted the biogas into bio-CNG. long back 2007 when we are talking about the PepsiCo. Now what we are thinking of giving a green hydrogen from the biogas. So that we are again giving, we are giving a nutrient recovery system from the wastewater, like nitrogen and phosphorus. That is for Snow. We are tied up with the Belgian company. So we are also bringing some technology which will benefit the Indian industries. So that is that applied part or what.
And I think you
Yeah.
also have changed over time because of the
Over time.
necessity.
Yeah. In fact, we are looking at, going to the grassroots level, like Garvey Sahib knows that we long back did for in 2008, a project for Mumbai Municipal Corporation. That is what waste effluent treatment plant for the water treatment plant. It sounds like different, but to tell you, the other day I called that BMC people. We are giving 40 mld treated water from a plant called that is Nazarpur in Mumbai, back to the city of Mumbai. So 40 mld, it's a very huge quantity. So that type of in-house technology in India we have developed. There is that type. So sooner that is coming up slowly.
See, particularly for this SME and MSME, अभी गए 30 साल का एनवायरमेंट का प्रैक्टिस करते समय हमको एक बात नजर में आई है कि सरकार ने अगर रेगुलेशन बनाया है तो वो जबरदस्ती समझते, डोंट टेक इट अदरवाइज, पर इसके जो आफ्टर इफेक्ट्स है, मतलब हमने एक जमाना ये भी देखा है कि अपने राजस्थान में पाली एरिया में जो टेक्सटाइल प्लांट चलते थे, टेक्सटाइल डाइंग होने के बाद जो वेस्ट वाटर है विदाउट ट्रीटमेंट वो ट्यूबवेल में छोड़ देते। और बाद में भारत सरकार ने वहां पे लोगों को एंगेज करके उस एरिया का मैपिंग किया और उस एरिया को कैसे हमने रिवाइव किया, रीमिटिगेट किया, रिजुविनेट किया, तो उसकी भी मेथोडोलॉजीज है। पर इशू ये है कि कभी भी एनवायरमेंट का एस्पेक्ट जब हम एड्रेस करते हैं तो उसमें टेक्नोलॉजी का पार्ट ये बहुत प्राइम इंपॉर्टेंस रहता है। अब मैं दोनों सिनारियो आपको बताता हूँ कि मुझे ESG में जाना है या तो मुझे ETP बनाना है। उस ETP की कॉस्ट 1 करोड़ रुपए है, तो पहले मैं ऑफर्स बुलाऊंगा एज ए इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट, मैं कंपैरिजन करूंगा और उसमें मुझे वैल्यू एडिशन कौन दे रहा है, उसका ROI क्या है, ये पहले मैं देखूंगा। और बाद में जो वैल्यू एडिशन कर रहा है उसको बुला के डिस्कशन करेंगे और उसमें और वैल्यू ऐड क्या कर सकते हैं उसको ऑप्टिमाइज करके देन आई विल प्लेस द ऑर्डर। अभी व्हेन अ कॉर्पोरेट SME और MSME मार्च करता है, पहले प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी आती है, फिर CSR करता है, CSR का इम्प्लीमेंटेशन अच्छे से करता है, अच्छा HR देखता है, अच्छे कंसल्टेंट देखता है, उसके बाद में ESG की तरफ जब वो जाता है तो उसने ये इम्पैक्ट एनालिसिस बिफोर एंड आफ्टर अगर कर लिया एक जानकार आदमी से, एक एकेडमिशियन से, उसके बाद में अगर उसने ESG का इम्प्लीमेंटेशन किया तो उसके इनडायरेक्ट बेनिफिट्स और लॉन्ग टर्म बेनिफिट्स इतने ज्यादा है, और वो अगर उसकी बात पड़ गई तो वो समझ जाता है कि भैया इसमें ROI देखने में मतलब नहीं है, ये मेरा फ्यूचर इन्वेस्टमेंट है, इसलिए मैं करूंगा।
Okay, thank you sir for your thank you for comment because we are running short of time. In case you have any questions, we'll have tea after this so that we can. You want to ask something?
Yeah, one.
You can ask a question after this. He's going to conclude first. Then he wants again. We have somebody to conclude. So he also wanted to go. We have Gizari Mantriji here, who is chairman of CSR Forum of BIA. So on behalf of BIA, I request him for his concluding remarks.
He must have the last
BIA
word.
was here.
Okay.
नमस्कार, समय बहुत हो गया लेकिन हिंदी इंग्लिश में तो मैं हिंदी में बता देता हूँ। मेरे लिए तो नया ही था क्योंकि मैं CSR फोरम का चेयरमैन हूँ। लोगों को केवल फोन इसलिए आते हैं कि हम लोग NGO में काम करते हैं, हमें कोई CSR आपके इंडस्ट्री से दिलाइए तो हम कोई अच्छा सोसाइटी में काम करेंगे। पर आज हमें अपेक्षित नहीं था, इनका आग्रह था जी का, तो मैं आया, बट मेरी आंखें खुली है, कुछ सीखा है मैंने यहाँ से कि what exactly ESG stands for। कई बार आपने जो बताया अभी, तीनों जो हमारे पैनलिस्ट थे उन्होंने बहुत अच्छे से समझा के दिया कि क्या क्या चीज हो सकती है, लक्ष्मी क्या है, सरस्वती क्या है, ये सारे जो चीजें और करप्शन तक उन्होंने सिखाया। एमएसएमई के लिए जो हमको केवल कंप्लायंट बनने की जो बात है, तो एक्चुअल में कंप्लायंस भी जो लिखा है कि कहाँ लिखा है। छोटी इंडस्ट्री के लिए इतना बड़ा ऑडिटर भी नहीं होता है कि जो उनको बताए कि यार कहीं लिखा है तो वो कागज डाल दिया है, तो वो भी जरूरत नहीं थी। लेकिन इसमें से मुझे एक समझ में आया कि अगर इफ यू वांट टू बी ए गुड सप्लायर टू ए बिगर इंडस्ट्री, जहां हम लोग कहीं ना कहीं से बैकडोर से जाकर पॉलिटिकली बोलेंगे तो गिरिश जी का पहचान लगा के बोलेंगे कि हमको सप्लाई करने के लिए दीजिए, ये करने के लिए दीजिए। लेकिन इससे मुझे समझ में आया कि इंडस्ट्री को अगर ये ESG जो हम लोग बोल रहे हैं कि ESG कंप्लायंट अगर हो गए, तो ये हमारे अपने आपके लिए एक सर्टिफिकेट होगा, जिसको दिखाने के बाद में मुझे नहीं लगता है कि बड़ी इंडस्ट्री आपको सप्लाई करके आपको अवॉइड कर सकेगी। और वो कंसिडरेशन ही आपका सबसे बड़ा कंसिडरेशन था। आज के इससे टिकअप यही है कि ये सारे लोगों को ESG का मतलब छोटी इंडस्ट्रीज को अच्छे से समझा कर समझकर उन्होंने अपने आप को कंप्लायंट कर लिया, और उसका फायदा निश्चित रूप से उनके बिजनेस में मिलेगा। नॉट ओनली दिस बिजनेस, नॉट ओनली सप्लाइंग टू बिग इंडस्ट्रीज बट इवन इन एक्सपोर्ट्स आल्सो। तो एक्सपोर्ट के अंदर में अगर इसका बेनिफिट मिल सकेगा तो वी विल बी नेट। जो हम जब बैलेंसिंग की बात करते हैं चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट की भाषा में, कि हम एक्सपोर्ट और इम्पोर्ट जो अभी हम बहुत ज्यादा इम्पोर्ट कर रहे हैं, तो एक्सपोर्ट इम्पोर्ट के अंदर में भी ये बैलेंस करके आई थिंक वट एवर मोदी जी इज लुकिंग आफ्टर, कि हमारी कंट्री नेट जीरो भी हो जाए और बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट भी हमारे स्टेबलाइज हो जाए, तो हम स्ट्रॉन्ग इकोनॉमी बन सकते हैं। तो ये दिस इज वन ऑफ द पार्ट, दिस इज व्हाट आई टुक इट फ्रॉम दिस। So I conclude this and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will have to, you have to excuse because 8 almost बज चुके हैं. During you can ask the question.
You can always talk later.
Yeah. I can just conclude in 2 lines in Hindi by saying that अभी मैंने लिखा यहाँ पर सामने कि जो आदमी तलाशता है उसे सिर्फ पत्थर मिलता है, जो तलाशता रहता है उसको पत्थर मिलता है, जो तराशता है तो तराशने वाले को मूर्ति मिल जाती है। तो हमने यहाँ देखा कि फैकल्टी से उन्होंने सिर्फ तलाशा नहीं ESG को, उसको तराशा है। So even though we were less number of people here, but it will be read by at least 3 to 4 lakh people in the newspapers. So यहाँ पर 30 लोग रहे, 50 लोग रहे, 60 लोग, उससे ज्यादा तो आते नहीं है। But newspaper नागपुर के 3 से 4 लाख लोग जरूर पढ़ेंगे and they will be benefited by this. With this, I finally request Dr. Vijay Patel to sum up and give his concluding remarks. So again, request to you as short as possible आप कर सकते हैं because समय already 8 बज गए. Please.
I'll do it as possible. मतलब बोलने के लिए मेरे पास बहुत कुछ है, बट मैंने जो लिखा है शॉर्ट में, सबसे पहले मैं इवन गिदार जी को ये बताना चाहूंगा कि जैसे CSR में भी नाउ जो NGO है उनको भी CSR 1 सर्टिफिकेट लेना है, उनको भी कंप्लायंट होना है, तभी उनको बड़ी इंडस्ट्री CSR फंड देती है। तो जैसे आप MSME की बात कर रहे हैं कि जो अनसिलरी यूनिट है उनको अगर बड़े इंडस्ट्री से सप्लाई करने के लिए परमिशन चाहिए, सो दिस इज वन थिंग। देवदत्त सर ने जो सबसे शुरू में बात कही कि जो पिरामिड के बॉटम पिरामिड हम बोलते हैं प्रॉफिट प्लैनेट एंड पीपल, और उसको रिलेट किया एनवायरनमेंट सोशल एंड गवर्नेंस के साथ में। सो वी स्टार्टेड विद दैट एंड देन बेसिक क्या है यहाँ पे कि CSR क्यों, मेरा मुद्दा में लोगों तक वहां पहुंचा दूं, मैं CSR कंसल्टेंट खुद हूं और मैंने देखा कि गवर्नमेंट ने CSR लाया क्यों। अगर आप लोगों को सबको जानना होगा कि भाई गवर्नमेंट कहीं तो भी कम पड़ रही थी, गवर्नमेंट खुद नहीं कर पा रही थी, तो गवर्नमेंट ने कहा कि चलो इंडस्ट्री बहुत पैसा बना रही है, लेट्स टेक इंडस्ट्री से पैसा लेते हैं और वो पैसा यूज करते हैं। मतलब हमारा फिस्कल डेफिसिट हमारा जो था उसको फुलफिल करने के ओवरकम करने के लिए हमने इंडस्ट्री को रिस्पॉन्सिबल बताया, तू पैसा कमा रहा है, तू पैसा दे और तू खर्चा कर। बट दैट वाज स्पेसिफिकली फ्रेंड ऑन द एरिया जो कि सेक्शन 7 के अंदर में लिखा गया है, जिसमें कि एजुकेशन और हेल्थ ये 2 इंपॉर्टेंट पैरामीटर है, इसके अलावा सैनिटेशन है, वाटर है और अदर पैरामीटर्स है। बट इंडस्ट्री ने कहा कि भाई मैं वो काम करूंगा, उसमें भी रूल CSR ने बनाया कि भाई आपके एम्प्लॉय के लिए आप नहीं कर सकते, इट हैज टू बी डन फॉर सम अदर्स। तो अब प्रॉब्लम ये हो गया कि इंडस्ट्री को कि करे तो क्या करे, फिर आपका लिमिटेड एरिया कर दिया। तो जो इन्होंने कहा कि CSR है, फिर ESG क्यों, तो ESG इसलिए लाया गया कि इंडस्ट्री को ये दे दिया कि भाई तुमको खर्चा करना ये तो मैंडेटरी है, इसके अलावा तुम अपना ब्रांड बिल्डिंग करना चाहते हो, अपना वैल्यू प्रॉपोजिशन बढ़ाना चाहते हो, तो डू दिस
and that is what our speaker has contributed very well. I'll say that कि अमिताभ जी ने जो बताया है वेरियस पैरामीटर एंड गार्वी जी ने जो बताया है कि वो दोनों चीजें हैं कि ग्राउंड रियलिटी आपको बता दी कि कर रहे हैं लोग, ऐसा नहीं कि नहीं कर रहे, बट जो क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था ऑडियंस से कि इसका अवेयरनेस सर इतनी जल्दी नहीं आएगा। मेरा ये मानना है, पैनल को भी मैं यही कहता हूँ कि जब तक कि कोई चीज लीगलाइज नहीं होती, हम सीएसआर को शुरू से फॉलो कर रहे हैं कि जब वॉलेंट्री था तो लोग कागज पे करते थे, नहीं करते थे तो कुछ नहीं होता था। जब इमीडिएटली जब से लॉ लाने लगा कि भैया वो बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर रिस्पॉन्सिबल नहीं किया जाएगा, उसको लीगल फाइनेंशियल पनिशमेंट भी और लीगल भी एक्शन होगा, इमीडिएटली थिंग्स स्टार्टेड हैपनिंग। तो ऐसा ही ईएसजी के साथ में भी होगा कि जब रेगुलेशन आएंगे और आप बोले कि एमएसएमई को बेनिफिट मिलेगा, एमएसएमई को बेनिफिट, अभी बहुत से एमएसएमई ऐसे हैं कि जो किसी एरिया में नहीं आते, बट जब वो अपना डिफरेंशिएशन अदर देन अदर लोगों से करना चाहते हैं कि हम कुछ अलग है, हम अपने लिए नहीं जी रहे बल्कि अपने समाज के लिए जी रहे हैं, अपने लोगों के लिए जी रहे हैं और उनके भलाई के लिए हम काम कर रहे हैं। तो एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट जो आपके से मैंने लिया था गार्वे सर कि जो क्वांटिटेटिव, अमिताभ जी ने बताया था, क्वांटिटेटिव एंड क्वालिटेटिव तो है, एक्सपेंस मैटर दे दिया है कि भाई इतना आपने क्वांटिटेटिव, क्वालिटी दैट इज व्हाट द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग। और जो क्वालिटी हमेशा कहा जाता है कि उसको परकुलेट करने के लिए बहुत समय लगता है, वो ऐसे आती नहीं है, बट इस तरह का इवेंट जो लिया है वीआई ने, आई एम वेरी थैंकफुल टू वीआई फ्रॉम एनएचआरडी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू। I am thankful to the panelists for coming here and spending their time, and also to the audience who has जो आए हैं यहाँ पे और उन्होंने अपना कीमती वक्त दिया। और यहाँ से आप बाहर ले जाओगे, बाहर लोगों को बताना है आपको और ये चीज प्रमोट करनी है कि जैसे आपने सीएसआर के बारे में बहुत सुना है, ऐसे ही अब टाइम आ गया है कि ईएसजी के बारे में बात की जाए, ईएसजी के बारे में लोगों को समझाया जाए। So I know I have a lot to say, but the time I will conclude myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. With this, we come to the end of this panel discussion. I request you for a cup of tea, and in case something is to be discussed, we can discuss. Thank you. Very well. Yes.
Yeah. You'll all sit here or stand?
Hello. मला नाही
Thank you very much.
So मैंने वो भी करना है कि देखिए इन्वेस्टमेंट वो वाला
तुम्ही लोग आत्मसा सर just give me a moment.
how will they do that?
Namaskar. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Please take them out. You are how many of you are here? I'm fine. It's fine. If you say to I am yes, message me when you are. 10 बजे मुझे नहीं चाहिए. Program in detail, proper, technical.
मैं आपको अपना
Very good job. You spoke very well. Both of you. I'm so proud of you. And come here, sweetheart. And all of you need to meet me, Akshay. All of you need to meet me. Come quickly, come. या तो वीडियो कॉल कर लेंगे, व्हाट्सएप पर कन्वर्ट करना है, इम्प्रूवमेंट ऐसे बोलना है आपको सारे। अब इसका फायदा है, ये यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ टाइम शुड बी ठीक है। हर एक्टिविटी यू डू सर्वोडे गिविंग द मिनी प्रोजेक्ट, इसके बारे में बोलो। वेरी गुड।
especially the area of sustainability and aging.
चाय पी के जाना है, मुझे बता के जाना है।
और
This time it was very on the LSCS, given the ESG. So people, employees are not knowing what is ESG. So I told them, I define environment, then S for safety, social topics. And G for what? Likewise, I told them. So ESG is spoken that way.
How to objectively decode it, in terms of issue is if he is in account, he can not line to so at least not many companies. Yeah, I know something like they are totally compliant deals and they are achieving more money than they were. What do you think? Apple, there is a very nice video. They say that we will be ESG compliant. Value of the market value of Apple has actually gone up. Time is such.
That's for बोलते समय निकाल लो हाँ बोलते समय निकाल निकाल तुम्हें करना है एक बीच में निकाल थैंक यू ए छुप रहा है हाँ तो और हाँ बस although I won't use all of this.
मजा आया आपका प्रेजेंटेशन एक लाइनेस था थैंक यू myself Boris I want to make the safety officer
organization health and safety
ये
आप डिलीट कर दो इस पर
pleasure sir pleasure because वो जैसे किसी honors करते So it was a nice presentation and ESG people were not knowing because NSC has also introduced the concept be leadership in ESG. So they are calling यार ESG क्या होता है?
Yeah, very soon
they were not knowing. No employee is knowing about the ESG. We are having 4,500 employees.
Next month, I'm stationed in Delhi. So next month, I'm doing a ESG program for around, I don't know, maybe 200 employees for Indian Oil. Then NTPC. Okay. Please. मैं card नहीं carry करता। ESG है ना sustainable जब पेड 4 में करना है पेड टू कट this 4 times 9 we definitely look forward to IMT to have some kind of consciousness
वैसे बरोबर जी ने because recently I did BBS from IIM Mumbai.
Okay.
So Dr. Murthy was there. For very different of behavior, they said you are very small. I came from the course from that. So we should
the final.
a little bit later.
Please speak.
Now,
Really? It was 7 years. We are we got problems on the research companies starting from 22%. After that, it is like that we are as an assurance is required from I think 25 modules. How what is happening is BRSR reporting के लिए you need downstream data and even for BRSR assurance you need more solid data because तब तक reporting हो रही थी assurance मतलब audit नहीं that will be for all the companies which are doing BRSR reports. Is coming on MSME because we are all supply chain partners of the main company, which is reporting in BRSR. Indirectly. इसलिए मैंने कहा कि
if like MSME is being obliged to do this like reporting and reporting to get the customers and to get the
आपसे सप्लाई तभी दी जाएगी जब आप ESG compliant हैं आप अगर ESG compliant हैं तो Tata tea will not buy the raw material from you unless your trust is certain.
And also the one more that there is no certain universal framework of reporting the data of ESG.
There are multiple frameworks, but GRI, CEM, BRSR, there are multiple frameworks. And right now, many companies, there's integrated. You will see listed companies making their reporting both in BRSR and in integrated. Because BRSR is made in India for India. Or समझ में नहीं आता है, they understand integrated reporting. वहाँ पे approaches of 5 C's and 5 capital. So they have ESG, but in a different form.
There must be some like that differences between those two reports. There must be unique policy and like so there must be a universal framework for.
ये तो this everyone is trying, but it is hard to come. It will not easy. You can't compare with India also. आप वहाँ बात करो ESG reporting has been started in US से 20 years back. They have evolved so much. So only level or large level, so that is back also.
They can have a photo.
Please speak.
यहाँ पे तो इसलिए सकता
Thank you.
Can I answer?
Please, Are.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
So, the council exam, sir. Yes,
Basically, sir, I have also been Indian, so I have participated. Oh, sure. So I was my experiences of meeting people and making most of it. In Delhi, where do you
I'm a patient older than them.
Oh, you.
Give me a phone. Gmail accounts. Professor use for my YouTube.
अमोक सर इसको बंद करो ना।